Okay guys, in this lesson you're going to learn one of the easiest attacking plans, and I'm going to do it by showing you three games. First game that I'm going to show you today, as you can see, this is the King's Indian attack. Second game, you're going to see as well that I played King's Indian attack. And the third game, the same thing. And I know that you might be thinking, why do I care? Well, lately we've been talking about how to attack the king. We've been reinforcing that, and I wanted to show you guys one of the easiest plans to attack the king. And let me show you quickly how these games ended. For example, this one, let me see if I can get to the point. So you're gonna see a pawn on h6, just putting pressure on the dark squares, and then in a few more moves we won the game. This one, if we go all the way to the final moves, you're going to see something similar. The same thing. You're going to see my pawn on h6 putting pressure on the dark squares, and in a few more moves we won the game. And then lastly, if I go back to the final moves for this one, you're going to see also the same pattern. Now I know that we already had some powerful lessons on the King's Indian attack, but I did not share this easy plan with you. I only did it with the members only. So if you're a paid member to my YouTube channel, you already know about this plan, but still I'm going to show you these games to reinforce that easy plan. Now let me go back, guys, and show you the three games from the very beginning. And here I'm playing a national master from Brazil. And don't forget, we talked about how you could get to the King's Indian attack by starting with e4, and then you get into the King's Indian attack. Or if you want to avoid the Scandinavian, the Caro-Can, and all of these lines, you could do the fianchetto first, and then you do d3 and pawn e4. And who says you didn't start with e4, right? So d3, knight b to d2, pawn to e4, and this is the same thing as playing e4 versus e6, French defense, or e4 versus e5, Sicilian defense. But the point is, from this moment on, I'm not going to use the plan that we learned from Bobby Fischer on lesson 79, which was with e4, bishop f4, and some crazy sacrifices. Well, it's going to be similar. And also, it's not going to be the plan that I showed you when I played the King's Indian attack my way with e takes d5, and it's more strategic. So anyhow, after rook e1 in this game, I'm threatening to play e5. I could have done it right away, but I eventually did it, and my opponent plays knight f to d7. Now, this pawn on e5, we've had multiple lessons about it. Number one, it gives you more space on the king side. It kicks away the knight from defending the king side. And if you remember the lesson we had on the Greek gift, this was one of the patterns to be able to execute it. Now, after knight d7, I got h4, and this is extremely important. I'm showing you the review or the analysis of the games for you to see how, even though I made mistakes, inaccuracies, I had my plan in mind, and this is so important. All of these lessons we're having lately about attacking plans is because I need you to have all of these tools, and even if you make mistakes along the way, you know where you're going, and that's very powerful. So h4, before we keep going, you should only know the one thing I have in my mind is I want my pawn to get to h5, h6, and provoke this g6. The moment they do that, this is like a fianchetto without the bishop in it, so it becomes weak. After I do that, I want to remove the dark square bishop, and then my bishop, my queen, will be able to travel and get to g7. It seems too simplistic, but you're going to find multiple Grandmaster games with this idea. You can see me here playing, not at that level, but playing strong opponents and getting them, you're going to see easily with this plan. And lastly, we have to keep an eye out on the e5 pawn. We cannot let go of that pawn. So after h4, my opponent plays rook e8, then knight f1. We saw this on lesson 79. The knight tries to come around to help us on the king side, and it opens up the bishop as well to defend the pawn. So bishop f4, thematic, I just know where my pieces belong. And h5, look, inaccuracy. The computer doesn't like it, but still, here I am, bishop b7, pawn h6, and now my opponent, at this point, if I show you the evaluation, it is, it's roughly equal, but again, I know where my pieces go, I know where my plan is. Now it's 0.53. So after g6, which is a mistake, then all I need to do is find a way to trade that bishop. Notice how the engine is saying, okay, you should have played g5, but who would play that move in a game, right? And the other thing, guys, I tell my students all the time, when you are attacking, it is difficult for your opponent to find the right moves. It is uncomfortable to be under pressure. If you're attacking and you make a mistake, you lose the initiative. If you're defending and you make a mistake, you're done, right? So G6 was played, and now Queen D2, inaccuracy, I don't care. I know exactly what my plan is. Now, again, if I go back here, 0.77, 125. So if I had brought the knight over, it would have been 125. But still, I'm not playing perfect, but I know what I want. So knight b6, my opponent pawn structure is telling them attack on the queen side. Knight h2, I finally got it. Then knight g4, mistake. Let me see, what should I have done instead? Okay, you see, right here, I should have done bishop g5 right away. But I'm bringing my knight over like Bobby Fischer used to do. Then a4 and bishop g5. Here you can see the same thing that I told you with the King's Indian defense. If my opponent is successful on the queen side, they're going to win material. Maybe a pawn, my rook. If I'm successful on the king side, I'm going to get the king. So after bishop g5, c takes e3, c takes e3, knight d7, bringing pieces to the king side, and now queen f4. So I'm just trying to get ready to bring the knight to g5 or to simply play knight f6 at the right time. So rook c8, then rook c1, queen b6, and now this is tricky, guys. I know they have to improve the queen, but there's so much action, so many pieces on the king side that they need to have defenders there. So now we finally removed the bishop, and look at this, the engine did not like it. And I don't want you to be thinking like, oh, I only want you to play engine moves and pay too much attention to the engine. But again, I'm just telling you this for you to see how, if you know the right plan, you know where you're going, you don't need to play the best move every time, right? So here, my move gives me 301. If I had done rook takes c6, then that would have been 881. Again, I definitely should have noticed it, but I'm still on my, I'm doing my thing. And after rook e7, knight f6, and the game is over. Now I'm threatening to take, queen f6, and I got to penetrate. If they take me instead, even easier, I just take and I got to g7. So again, guys, all I did was pawn all the way to h6 to provoke g6. I got a pivot pawn, and then I just need to remove the defenders of the dark squares and penetrate. Now, next game, I know that I'm going fast, but it is not that complicated, guys. Now, if I go to the beginning, then bishop g2, not complicated at all. You should know this already from lesson 79. Then knight b to d2, and I finally played e4. Now, from this moment on, I could play e takes d5, or I could play pawn to e5. So I continued with rook e1, b5, e5, and this means I'm going to go for the king side attack. So h4, again, the engine doesn't like it. I should have played knight f1 first to be ready to defend the pawn, but still, I just don't care. So queen c7, putting pressure on the pawn. Now queen e2, and after knight d4, which is a blunder, we simply capture the knight. Now this move, I saw it on many master games played by Fischer and other players, where yes, we open up the c file for them, but we continue to hurry up to attack the king. So c takes d4, knight f3, bishop c5, and then pawn to h5. So now the engine liked the move. It seems to be more accurate. And honestly, notice how they have most of their pieces on the queen side. So this should be an easy attack on that king. So next move, a5, and of course, guys, pawn to h6, and we made contact. If they take, that's just too much. g5 now doesn't make sense. If they let me take, we open up their king anyways. So they have to play g6. And now the question is, if you were playing this game, how would you continue? Well, my move, and I hope that you pause the video and you try to work on it, my move was actually a mistake. I played knight h2. Actually, well, inaccuracy, not that bad. So apparently, I should have played pawn to a3. Come on. Now, with that said, on lesson 79, you saw over and over how the white pieces played a3 sometimes to sort of slow down this attack a little bit, right? So I did not care about it again. I just went knight h2, focused on my attack, and after bishop a6, knight g4, rook d8, And notice how they're bringing the rook out so that they could bring the bishop back if necessary. But after rook f to c8, instead of playing bishop f4, I went queen f3, mistake. So I should have played again bishop f4, now bishop f8, bishop g5, all of my pieces coming to the king side. Queen c2, my opponent takes the time to collect the pawn. It seems to be the best move, to be fair, but I just knew it couldn't be right. So rook e2, queen goes back to c6, then bishop h3. This move, again, is not a move that I just thought of it. I've seen it over and over in Bobby Fischer's games when he plays the King's Indian attack. And often he would sacrifice the bishop on e6. And you're going to see it came handy later on. So after bishop h3, pawn to b4, rook to d1, queen a4, b3, trying to defend the pawn. But again, it was not the best move. Best move was to just play rook a1. Come on. So b3, queen b5, and then queen f4. Now, if you pay attention here, guys, it says you overlooked an opportunity to double rook. So the engine is thinking of the right plan. I'm still in love with that other plan that we talked about, right? So I'm making inaccuracies, but I'm working towards that plan. And you're going to see that I even sacrifice pieces just to make it work. So rook c3, my opponent keeps putting pressure on the queen side. And like I said, if they're successful, they're going to win material. If we are successful, we're going to get the king. Now, knight f6, we know this already. Knight takes, queen takes, and then after rook takes e3, they gave us the last opportunity to get to the king. So they took back, hitting the rook, but we just don't care. Bishop e6, great move, and the idea is that I'm threatening to just do mate. They don't have time to capture, and if they capture me, then I'm going to go queen e6, followed by bishop f6, and we take. And guys, this pawn is really, really powerful over here. So my opponent decides to not capture, rook a7, very good move to defend through the 7th rank, but now it is just too late. We have to find a way to completely open up the king. So we played bishop d5, brilliant move. And the idea, guys, is that now after e6, the game is over. Now, this is one of those moves that we have to be very careful because it's not check. So my opponent gets to move. And I needed to calculate what to do if after queen takes e6, what if they put me in check on f1, right? So check, I go to h2, I need to consider that. So here they just took, then bishop e6, they gave me the queen, and guys, all of you should be able to close this. Not only are we doing this check, but we're hitting the bishop. If they go to h8, bishop f6, they have to give me material, or queen f6. Well, we get something there. And of course, after rook f7, we get the bishop. This is just too easy. We're going to the last game, and let me go from the beginning. This is one more time, knight f3. We get to our King's Indian attack position, and then my opponent plays pawn to d4. Now, inaccuracy, in my mind, this is looking more like what we get in the King's Indian defense. They advance the central pawn, automatically we get good squares for our knight. Now, if I go there right away, they could kick me out, so I'm going to play a4 first. Inaccuracy, but again, I know why I'm doing it, I understand the plan, I'm going for it. Then queen c7, pawn to e5, now you know what this is for. Automatically, it's crazy attack on the king side, so h4, inaccuracy, then b6, knight e4, mistake. Now, what is it that the engine wanted me to do here? Let me see. Okay, so apparently the knight was better on c4. So the engine is thinking, there's nothing on the king side, man. Focus on the square that you wanted in the first place. But I already switched gears and I'm going towards the king side. Now, notice how my evaluation went from 0.45 to 0.30. Not a big deal, as long as you know the plan. And guys, we've talked about this before. Those of you who know Gukesh, I told you that I was listening to an interview that they did to his coach, and his coach was telling how important it was to understand the positions, be able to make practical decisions, even if the engine is giving you an inferior evaluation. It is better to have inferior position, but you're familiar with it, you know the plans, than having a very good position according to the engine, but you're not able to come up with a plan. You don't really understand it. So knight e4 was played. I mean, bad excuse. I'm not justifying myself, but just keep that in mind. Okay, so bishop b7, h5, same plan. This time is good. h6, great move, g6, and now bishop g5. That's it. Same thing over and over and over. They didn't take, so we go queen d2. Notice how the engine keeps telling me, you gotta play c4, you gotta play a3 like in the other games. Well, this is how we learn, this is how we master our openings, our typical middle game plans, by reviewing the games after. Now, next time, I'm going to think of, okay, let me consider something on the queen side, c4, a3, and so on. So a5, c4, oh, I ended up doing it, good. B takes e3, b takes e3, and the idea is that I need the knight gone. With the knight gone, f6 is going to be completely mine. So king h8, they don't want me to come in with a check. c4, knight has to leave, and now rook a3 mistake. So apparently I should have just gone to f6 right away. Now there's no rush. Let me see. Still, evaluation is good for us. It could have been 363. We're still at 199. And after bishop e7, giving us what we want, which is that bishop, we just take it. And then queen f4, guys, just too easy. So rook d8, and now, of course, check and checkmate. Now, of course, not all of our games are going to be like this, but just know this is another plan to have in your arsenal. And of course, it's not only to be implemented in the King Sinian attack. These kind of positions, you could get them from different openings.